What's going on, everybody? Doc and Sloth back again. We want to do a quick, again, we're real big into the achievement guides, and we did a full-length video of how we got It Just Keeps Going and the On Fire achievements for Halo Wars 2. We wanted to do another video a little bit shorter, just to kind of show you, again, the setup and really how well this is working, as well as the decks. So right now, we're still actually in the same game. We're sitting at wave 45. We just want to do a quick overview of how we're setting this up. We'll go into the decks here in a second. The biggest key factor for me, both sets of Reavers, both sets, the Enduring and the regular Blisterback. I am running as Atriox as well because I really like his hero and was lucky enough to get him. And this is our setup. As you guys can see, again, straight up wave 45, so well past the 25 that you need to get to. And we really have kind of set up this L shape, the ridge in between B and C, as well as kind of the approach from their base to C. And I'm pure in defense mode. I put Atriox and Ironclad Wraiths up front with some Engineers, and then honestly just Blisterbacks behind. Sloth's helping me out with some Kodiaks, and then we're setting Reavers really just on the points. I should have some more on C. We just had a tough wave come in, because that's about the only flaw, I guess you would say. Not even flaw. Disadvantage we would have, because we don't have a ton of actual air units that we're calling in. Sloth's been working a lot of the vultures, and again, we're also facing some tough waves, so we don't have as many units as we had probably 3 or 4 waves ago. But we'll set up really just Reavers on both the points, just to help, because it seems like every 4 or 5 waves they bring in a really heavy air unit beep, so that kind of helps us combat that. And then every other wave, it seems to be mostly ground, and as you guys can see, we're just kind of chugging through without doing a whole lot because we have these Blisterbacks set up.
Yeah, the thing that I think I probably should have done a little bit more in the beginning of the game was to cycle through maybe a few cards that I didn't need, instead of saying, yeah, whatever, I'll throw a Warthog in there. Instead of using that 60 energy on that, use 5 energy, call in another Nightingale. I feel like having a lot of Nightingales would have been really nice to help me kind of stay alive a little bit longer on some of my really good units. I still was trying to figure out combat salvage, and there are so many blast units. Oh, there goes my army. Oh, man. So you're going to see we're starting to struggle here at 47, but we just kind of wanted to show we put a good amount of effort into getting up to 25 and, kind of showing a strategy for that. But you do this right, you set this right, you can go as long as you can pretty much handle the initial waves and the blast units.
Yep.
That's really the only thing that's going to slow you down.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll kind of leave you here. We'll jump back over in just a second, and we'll show you our decks. All right, guys, so now we're going to talk through, Sloth's going to cover his Forge deck. I'm going to cover Atriox. We're going to kick off with Sloth first. And again, we're just going to show you and talk through kind of the specific setup, a little bit of a deeper dive into just what we're using as far as the deck, and again, kind of go over the strategy. We ended up making it through to wave 50 before we absolutely got decimated, just by a sheer number of units, and a lot of blast units, to be honest. That seemed to be kind of what really finished off Sloth. And then once his kind of defense was down up front, my Blisterbacks didn't stand too much of a chance after that. But we'll jump right into Forge.
Yeah, so I have a somewhat simple setup, other than the cards we get from the Forge packs at the very start. So starting off with the standard Wolverine, I like to detect. There's a lot of air units that get thrown at you in Firefight, so that helps. Do have the Nightingale, again, another detect. This is a unit I wish I used a little bit more, maybe cycled through some of these other units late game to get more Nightingales, because it's nice to not have to pull everybody back to your base, because this whole setup, a lot of these cards are kind of slow, so that will help us a lot if we use more Nightingales. Reactive Marines, that's just kind of throw a little bit more damage at them, kind of a jack-of-all-trade unit. For me, at least early game, more towards late game, they had a little less utility, but it is nice to be able to pop them down and maybe wait on some energy to come in. And that's actually why I have the Warthog as well. You have to be able to pull those energy. We've talked a lot in Blitz multiplayer about how important it is to go chase down that energy. But in Firefight, it's essential. It's not important, it's vital, because you just don't get any other energy otherwise.
Yep.
So the having a good force in the air I found to be really important for me. So we're going to see that with the Hornet and a little bit later here with the Vulture. Scatter Bomb is not really a targeted attack that you use to take out big units. It's a spray and pray bomb drop that hits a lot of staggered lines. So that's something I used for a lot of units. Ton of them bunched up together. If a unit's in worry, or if I have just a gigantic army coming at me that I'm worried about, I just drop the scatter bomb on them. So I kind of used it few and far between, but I tried to target it when I really needed it. Go ahead and use it and thin out those ranks.
Really quick,
you're actually going to see.
Sorry, I just want to say too, especially when we started to get into the higher waves, the leader powers actually became beneficial. I didn't have any, and that might be one small thing I look to change in the future. Just because I actually made it to the population cap of 30. So there's a period of time, like in the mid 40s, where I really couldn't drop anything. I was like sending some smaller units to go die, whereas if I could have just cycled through and had some powers, that would have been a perfect opportunity to use something exactly like this.
Yeah, I mean, we usually have a breakdown of 10 units and 2 powers, and this kind of setup I think worked for me. So maybe in this Atriox deck that we'll look at here in a second, maybe we'll swap something out to get Atriox's Bulwark or something like that will help us out a little bit. But in this one here, you're going to see I went with Scorpion and Grizzly. Just that amount of power and that amount of utility. It is on the ground what the Vulture is in the air. Good against two things and neutral against the other. Can't really beat that. So I carried the Scorpion and the Grizzly. The Grizzly is dirty, just sick, nasty, beautiful, but the Scorpion definitely still has its place in the deck. The Vanguard Kodiaks, I love that rush ability on them. The other cool thing about them, you drop them in and they are set and forget. You don't even have to set them. You drop them and they immediately lock down and start looking for something to shoot. So in the Firefight game mode, especially with this deck, I feel like there's a lot of micromanaging going on. Looking over your deck at all times, or all of your units at all times, to see, if I need to send somebody back to base, or if I need to move things around, or do I need to target my Nightingales on this, just to keep everybody alive for the longest period of time. It's nice to have something that's set and forget. The Vulture became the spine of my deck. Forge has always been about the Scorpions and Grizzlies and stuff, but the Vultures really helped out. There are quite a few waves where you just see Banshee after Banshee after Banshee, or Sentinels, just an entire Sentinel army. So having something that is really good against air and has a good amount of health pool and just can overall hit mostly anything is fantastic. The Vulture really saved my bacon a couple times for the rest of my army. Combat Salvage is something I did not use very effectively. There is a time cap on it, so you can tag the mechanical units to redeploy. If they're killed, they'll go back to base, but there is a time cap on it. So it's not one of those set and forget kind of things. But if there's a big battle coming, my guys are weak, I didn't get a chance to take them back to base to heal them up, I'm going to make sure I'm saving my energy, pop that Combat Salvage before something goes down, and just get them right back to base and just kind of cycle them right back through. So use this one a little bit more effectively than I did, and you'll get way past 50, I would imagine, especially if you have somebody supporting you like Doc did with Atriox. Forge was really nice. The rally ability was awesome. I felt like it really boosted up everybody else, especially when I had a big army that was also approaching the population cap. To have everybody else boosted up just a little bit, that's fantastic. Everybody else is doing a little bit more damage, and that's just going to help Forge. The one thing I needed to do better is maybe keep him towards the middle of my army. He has a propensity to chase. If I haven't given him any orders, he'll go chase somebody down and try to take them out. And there are some units and these big exosuits that will suck a vehicle unit towards them and start attacking it. And the way they set it up in the Firefight is they'll have a line of those units. So your guy gets sucked in and then sucked in further and further, and then by the end of it, he's on the other side of their army by himself, and he's just gone. He's dead. So I think having him chase and then that happening, I lost a lot of Forge's Warthogs, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just kept them back a little bit and allowed that rally ability to help the rest of my deck.
Yeah, for sure. But again, still overall really good strategy. Obviously, we made it to 50, and this was our second game playing through, so we had a good setup. Combat Salvage, again, is something I want to highlight again, and leader power is being really beneficial towards that late game. Combat Salvage is probably one of those cards, Sloth, correct me if I'm not, you probably cycled through it a little bit during the beginning, one, because it is a high energy cost, and we're kind of still building up the army. But later on, it's definitely something you want to have and kind of keep in your back pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have one Scorpion and a Warthog and a Wolverine and a Hornet, I'm not going to worry about Combat Salvage. I'm gonna cycle through that early game, and I'm just going to wait. But as soon as I start pulling out Forge's Warthogs and Grizzlies and Vultures and Vanguard Kodiaks and stuff, that stuff's expensive. So if I can use Combat Salvage to save one Forge's Warthog, I've gotten my money's worth out of it. So you are right. That is something that I like to cycle at the beginning, but I always kept in my hand, and I always wanted to keep at least 180 energy if I knew something was coming. So if I wanted to pop in a Grizzly, I would have to wait until I was at 330 because I wanted to have that Combat Salvage to save the rest of my deck. I didn't want to get greedy and lose the rest of my army because I wanted to call in a Grizzly too early.
Right. So that's the overall deck build you're seeing on the screen right now. Sloth ran the full metal starting army. I think that's a good choice, especially because the Scorpion's a pretty good upfront unit. So we're going to hop over to my setup with Atriox here real quick. Right up front, I'm using the bulletproof starting army just because, honestly, I think it's the better of the two options. And plus, the Ironclad Hunters really kind of help to absorb a lot of that damage at the beginning. And then having those three additional units, the two grunts and the elites, actually help you kind of go grab those initial energy cores. So nothing really too spectacular about this deck, but there is a really key defensive piece, or definitive piece, and that's the defense. So I'm setting up, obviously I'm having a good structure of units that are capable of kind of taking everything out, because you are going to see throughout the waves a good amount of different types of units. You'll see infantry, air, vehicles, and heroes all across the board. But like Sloth said, he's kind of up front. He's kind of the first front line. He's calling in a lot of units that are able to deal a lot of upfront damage and take a pretty good hit. I'm going to support with just a few units. Those for me are going to be Ironclad Hunters, right here with the guard ability at 70 energy, and then the Ironclad Wraith. These are the two units I'm going to kind of throw kind of towards his lines, just purely to help soak up damage, help one, keep his units alive, and then two, help keep our secondary line, which you guys were able to see, which really consisted of Reavers and Blisterbacks for us. So you'll notice I'm running both sets of the Blisterback, both the regular Blisterback, always in deploy mode, and then the Enduring Blisterback as well. If I had to kind of set it up any other specific way and kind of refine what we did, I would put the Enduring Blisterbacks a little bit closer to the front, because obviously when they do die, they do have Last Stand 3. You're going to get a couple of good infantry units out of it, some good units that actually can go pre-stage and pick up energy. And like Floss said, you have to pick up the energy here. It's not even a you should or it's a good strategy. You absolutely must. So I think I would refine that just a little bit. I was kind of just calling them in and setting them quickly, because obviously having them in the deploy mode is really what you're going for. But again, just to refine a little bit, put those guys up front. They'll be able to take any damage if they do kind of get through that initial wave of lines, or Sloth, from one time to another had to bring his units back to heal. So if those units do die, you get a little bit of a bonus. And then besides that, I'll just highlight the two sets of Reavers, really to kind of help. The air waves seem to be one of the tougher waves in this. The hero waves, obviously, like Sloth was saying, with the units that are pulling the guys in, those are tough. But once you have this set up and you're able to get a good line of Blisterbacks and Kodiaks established, they'll pull in a couple units, they'll kill, Sloth Forge's Warthog 6 times, but they're not going to get anywhere close to the rest of your units, especially once they get into the range of your ranged units. So having these definitely need those. And again, the airwaves, because they can pass right over, they can fly right over your lines of blisterbacks and Kodiaks. You got to have that anti-air support. So not only do I run the regular Reaver, but also the Prowling Reaver, which is probably one of the MVPs. I would say that the blisterback is the MVP, and this is a close runner-up, just because it does so much good damage. And there are a lot of points near the end. I was talking about just having a couple of these on C, because that air wave will push right towards C to take it. And at that point, you've probably got a really well-established line in front of C. So they might be able to snag C kind of right under your nose. Having a couple of these guys down, absolutely going to shut it down. Besides that, the only other thing I would absolutely say you need to have is Atriox, along with an engineer. So I've kind of got like 3 little pairs of units here: engineer, Atriox, 2 wraiths, or the ironclad wraith and the ironclad hunters, and then the 2 blisterbacks, and then the 2 reavers. That's really how this deck sets up. Everything else, the hunters, the locust, and the marauder, really just there to help you kind of deal with some of the additional units, get some stuff down early when you don't have a lot of energy, and go pick up those energy cores. And like you said, we made it to 50. We mentioned that, looking at leader powers, I'm going to hop in. There might be some room for one, definitely. But to be honest, I don't know. Sloth, I don't know if you have any
What to
ideas.
take out.
Yeah, what to take out, or even what to put in. Atriox Bulwark is pretty good. But it never really gets to me. The waves, once you're established, never really got to the point where I felt like I needed a leader power to drop on them to keep them alive. Maybe a Scarab Assault, but that is a lot of energy.
I tell you what, we don't have it yet, but Eradication.
That would be very good.
That would probably be my bet for that, especially when, like you were talking about, you get late game, you're at the population cap, you don't have the money, or you don't have the ability to call in all this other stuff, and you have extra money. Eradication would be great for just wiping out entire armies.
True, that's a good one. Or even Scorch Mines too, to be honest, because they do. AI does take a very distinctive pathing, especially once you have kind of that setup like we've been talking about established. They're always going to run towards that choke point between B and C. So being able to throw just kind of Scorch Mine after Scorch Mine would be is a viable option. But we really like this. Again, this was a great setup. If you are the defensive-minded player and you don't mind kind of holding back for the first couple of waves trying to get yourself set up, you're not really going to be on the offensive a lot. But once you do get this established, you're going to get plenty of kills, trust me. So that's our setup. So again, we just want to do a little bit shorter video, just kind of show you to supplement our full gameplay. So we got kind of the both sides here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And if it was, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Twitter as well, because we got a lot of other Halo Wars 2 content coming. We got a lot of other achievement guides coming out, and we're going to continue to kind of refine these decks and the pairings as well, especially for Blitz, Firefight, and regular Blitz as well. So ton of other content. Let us know down below if this did help you out, or if you got any other suggestions as well. Maybe you got a deck set up with a couple of different leaders that worked out really well to get you to this achievement as well. Kind of share with the community. That would be awesome. But I'm a Doc. That's been Sloth. We are Average Gamer Guys. Thank you so much for checking us out. We will check you next time.